Hi, welcome back to Jump Into Life. This is Alan Thomas, your host. I have a very interesting topic, masculinity, defining masculinity in the 21st century. You may wonder why I chose this topic. Well, there's a lot of information, some may say misinformation if you subscribe to toxic masculinity. Uh, it's affected a lot of relationships, or is currently affecting a lot of relationships. But I have a guest. I will introduce you to him later, just a few minutes. He has an opinion that you may not find that you agree with, but we are in the great U.S. of A., and in America we still have the First Amendment right of free speech. Is that correct?
Correct.
And so I do have to warn you that this episode may not be suitable for young adults, children. It may be some language used that you may find offensive. So, just a heads up. Now, this is going to be the last episode for this season. It's been a great season. I'll encourage you to go and listen to other episodes of this podcast and make sure you subscribe, comment on each one. I'm also posted clips on TikTok, Jumping Into Life, and you can go back and listen to some more. Is one key point that I found profound, but there are many in each episode. I also have a podcast entitled Acts 18:9. That's Acts colon 18. I'm sorry, Acts 18 colon 9. You are not too heavy for God. And so I want you to listen to that while I am off season. So it's Acts 18:9. You are not too heavy for God. It's on all the streaming platforms. Now, I want to introduce my guest. His name is Malik Shabazz. And no, he's not related to Malcolm X's clan. He was asked that yesterday. So I didn't realize how common, how often he gets asked that question until someone asks me, was he related? And I would tell you that I know for a fact that he's not related to the Shabazz because he's my first cousin. So, first cousin, Malik Abdul, I was going to say Malik Abdul Shabazz. Welcome to the show.
Much appreciated.
If you can come closer and speak louder because it's not going to pick you up.
Much appreciated.
So let's get one thing straight. You love women,
Absolutely.
okay, and so you don't not dislike them, but you have a certain opinion of women who are in traditional roles where men have been traditionally found.
Yes.
Okay, and what is that opinion?
I believe that the gender roles have switched,
Okay,
and women are now more masculine, and men are more feminine.
you mean like physically masculine,
Um,
like bodybuilders?
no, mentally
Okay,
and psychologically
okay, you said
and
physical.
emotionally.
Okay, you said physical. I don't see a lot of women, female bodybuilders walking around.
Well, actually, there are a lot of women,
I don't know
female
one.
bodybuilders. I know several.
But anyway, I digress. Yeah, you would
Okay.
know because you're a big guy. You work out at the gym.
Yes,
Yeah, for us normal people, we don't see them.
which is also a masculine trait as well.
Okay, so let's talk about your opinion of women holding roles in that's traditionally held by men. What is your objection to that?
The verbiage that is coming back.
The verbiage?
Yeah, the verbiage that is coming back. The mindset behind that. Women have fought to. Let me be clear when I say this. I'm all for women empowerment. I'm all for women making their own money, doing their own thing. I have no problem with that. My problem comes in is that with that being said, there's consequences behind that because now you
The
have to
consequences behind what?
them doing those particular things because something has to give. Like the modern woman will say, I can have it all. You can't have it all.
Well, a lot of women may think that they can and should
I'm
have
sure
it.
I'm sure they believe that, but the reality of it is you cannot have it all. Something's going to lack and something's going to get set back where there's going to be a conflict within the relationship.
So you said there are things there, you mentioned consequences, and there are things that result from those consequences. What are those things?
Well, historically, nowadays, and I'm only speaking about feminists and modern thinking women. I'm not saying all women, but I'm saying those specific women. The mindset is that they don't need a man.
Okay.
And that's what's being permeated throughout, our society right now. We don't need a man. I have my own job. I have my own things. But in regards to relationships, men, when you ask a woman, what do men want from women? It's, I'm educated. I got this. I got that. And the reality of it is, men don't care about that because men's natural nature is to provide in provision. So if you're providing and I'm providing, but yet you feel like that you're more superior than me, if I'm lacking in that department, you'll never hear a man say, I'm dating a broke woman. You never hear a man say, I'm dating down. You'll never hear a man say, this woman is not on my level, because our natural instinct is to provide and lift up. But a woman in that reverse role, which is the feminist and the modern thinking woman, she will say, I need a man on my level. I can't date a broke guy. I'm not going to date a scrub.
Where there's women have fought hard for their rights. The female suffrage movement. There was a lot of struggles with that, trying to obtain the rights that they have now. So
Sure.
they may find what you say to be objectionable.
I can understand that to a degree, but when you fought for those rights, the same thing, like I just said to you, when men are in those positions, which traditionally men were, men never talk down to women about not being able to have what men have. But women do that when the roles are reversed. So
Give me an example of women doing that.
a great example is, as I just said, I'm not going to date a broke guy. And the fundamental
We
lack of
said talk down when they're in those roles. So what roles? Let's start with the roles you're talking about.
if the woman is the breadwinner, if she's the person that's providing all the bills or some of the bills, then she doesn't have a respect for that man.
You can push the mic up closer because
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's right.
She doesn't have a respect for that man. Historically, women have always been attracted to dominant, alpha, strong men. If you ask a woman what is her definition of provision, she will say primarily two things, providing and protection. So when the roles are reversed, if you fought for those same roles, to be viewed as men, to be paid as men, to conduct yourself in a masculine way, then if you are in that position, i.e. man, if you are in that position and you're dating a guy or you're dating a young man that maybe his 50% or lack thereof is not
What do you
at
mean
your
50%?
level, 50% of paying the bills.
Okay, gotcha.
Is not necessarily at your level, but he loves you, possibly love your kids. That's not his.
Wait. Now look at me. Look, listen. The opinions of my cousin are strictly his, not of the show. So make that clear. So let's go about.
Scaredy cat. Go ahead.
So what we said that.
Well,
When I heard you say a man accepting a woman and her kids, you're
Yes.
assuming that a lot of women you're speaking of have children, and they may have children, but the spouse may have passed away, or they may have been in an abusive relationship. You make it sound like it's a bad thing.
Single mothers, is that what you're saying?
I mean, you listen. What would you tell somebody who you say you accept her and her kids? That means she's a single parent.
Yes.
So okay.
Yes. That's not a good situation for a man. And I say that.
But it's not the woman's fault that she's in that position. That her husband died, or she was in an abusive relationship and got a divorce.
If her husband died, absolutely not her fault. If she's in an abusive relationship, there's something that can be done about that. The first hit, you leave. You don't wait around to the 20th. You don't wait around years later and then turn around and say that you're the victim.
Yeah, I'm not talking about that piece. I'm talking about you're saying, when a man comes before a woman and
Mm-hmm.
she has kids. I just don't want uh, to I want to defend a woman, position
Okay.
because this is just it's an interview and
Mm-hmm.
I'm interviewing you,
Mm-hmm.
and I have spoken to two different women, one in her 30s and one in her 90s, and I'll give you some of their opinions on this topic because I told them this topic will be discussed, and they
Okay.
gave me their views about today's defining masculinity in the 21st century and how it was then and how they perceive it now.
Mm-hmm.
But I, not to belay the point is that you were saying that a man sees a woman, approaches a woman, she has kids. I don't want people to think that all women, in that situation is a bad thing because sometimes women find themselves single parents due to no fault of their own. So that's why I mentioned
Well,
the deceased spouse, or when they finally leave, whenever they decide to leave,
mm-hmm.
first punch, 20 punch, they left. They're a
Mm-hmm.
single parent.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not their fault
But
that they're a single parent in those situations. So should a man take that in consideration? You make it seem like it's a bad thing if a man approach a woman and she's got a divorce from getting out of abusive relationship, or a spouse has passed away. It's
that's a slippery slope,
okay.
and
That's why I asked the question.
and I'm going to provide some information that's not going to go across as maybe tactful, but it's factual. 75 to 85% of women leave marriages.
And where do
For
you base that on?
statistics,
Okay. And you can tell my viewers where they can find that information.
they let their fingers do the walking through Google.
Okay.
So,
You hear that? Google.
so going forward,
I'm not saying you may find it, but you
I'm
can look.
saying you will find it,
Okay.
but I'm not here to do everybody's homework.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay.
All right.
Just like I found it, they can find it as
Okay.
well.
All right.
So now, 75 to 80% of women file for divorce. So women leave. Okay? That's a fact. Go look it up. Women leave. So with that being said, also, we got to start holding women accountable for their choice in men. Women don't properly vet these men.
Well, I mean, listen. Sometimes, I've as you know, as your older, wiser cousin who
Your
you look
opinion.
up to
Your
and
opinion.
aspire to be like.
Okay? His
and call me
story.
and call me every day for advice on anything and everything about in life.
Okay.
I've come across one or two, maybe three or four,
Mhm.
maybe five or six. Seems to be a pattern here of women who they the roles could be reversed. So you said that a
What do
lot
you
of times
mean?
women. You said a lot of times women uh, pick the wrong men. Well, sometimes I may date the wrong woman for me. She may be the right woman for somebody else, but you saying it goes both ways is my point.
No,
Men
it
and women
doesn't.
both pick.
No, it doesn't go both ways because what separates men and women is a woman's body, her choice.
We're talking about relationship, right? They pick
Yeah,
the
we're
wrong
talking
type of.
about relationships, and we're going back to your original question. Women's body, their choice. So now, if you don't properly vet the man that leaves you with a child, why would you give the greatest gift that you can give to a man, which is a child, and also yourself with a guy that you possibly know? And most women know this, that this guy has maybe 3 baby mamas or whatever. But you have to properly, what makes you think that you're going to be different in that scenario? And then you give that man a child, fully well knowing that man is probably in his past or in his present is incapable of being a father. So why would you do that?
Well, listen, men should be held accountable too, because it takes two to make a baby. You agree with that, right? You have biology 101.
Sure.
So you can't put it all on a woman.
I didn't put it all on the
Well,
woman.
you
What I
said
said was the more of the responsibility lies on a woman because if a woman gets pregnant, okay, if a woman gets pregnant a man doesn't have a say-so whether she carries that child to term. He has no say-so. So if a woman allows herself to get pregnant by a man, even if they have protection and it happens accidentally, or if the man puts on a condom, women have over 40-something methods of contraceptives. Men only have 3. So with that being said, if I'm sleeping with a woman and we both decide that I'm going to put on a condom, are we both protected? I'll answer that for y'all. No. I'm the only one that's protected from her getting pregnant unless the condom breaks.
So what's wrong with a woman
she
having children?
But if she decides, hold on, let me finish. If she decides that she wants to get pregnant and I don't want a child, but yet I wore a condom, that's her choice. She bears the majority of the responsibility, not that man. He is culpable. He has some responsibility. I'm not alleviating that.
I would say equal responsibility.
It's not. How is it equal when you have no choice in whether she carries a child to term? How's that equal? Let me oppose this.
You should have bought your condom at I'm not going to name a store, but
yeah.
You know.
But if how can I put this? If a woman can say, or let me do you one better. Women applaud it.
They're what?
They are applauded.
Oh, okay. Okay.
They are applauded for making a decision to either give a child up for adoption because they couldn't take care of it, or abort it because they didn't want to bring a child in the world because they also couldn't take care of it. And it could be a litany of reasons. They get applauded for that. But a man that decides that he doesn't want to be a father gets ridiculed for that. What's the difference?
So that's not having children is not a role that's traditionally held by men. So we're talking about
exactly.
But we're talking about defining masculinity in the 21st century and how your opinion and a lot of oddly enough, as I was doing my research, I found that a lot of men subscribe to, I don't want to use the word toxic masculinity, but the definition of masculinity in the 21st century, and it was shocking. I didn't realize how common thought that was, and so a lot of men believe that I'm not going to say in general women should be barefoot and pregnant, but I'm assuming you think so.
No, I don't.
Okay.
No, I don't. Don't
Okay.
put that jacket on me. No.
That is a nice jacket.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I'm talking about the one about barefoot and pregnant. On you.
Depends on the guy.
On you.
Not on me.
Some women may say that,
they
you wear
might.
that jacket very well.
They might. They very well might. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
And so let's get back to roles that are traditionally held by men that you believe women should not be in.
Before you do that, I want to tell you that you just agreed with me and didn't know that you did. When you said,
did I wear a jacket of women should be barefoot and pregnant?
No.
Okay.
I'm not going to let you skate out on that. But you just agreed with me and didn't know that you did.
Okay.
When you said that traditionally these roles are held by women. And I said that's why women bear more of the responsibility of bringing a child into this world. It's more on them than it is the man. You just proved that.
But my dear cousin, I do believe I said one thing that women traditionally and biologically hold a position of doing, which is childbearing.
True.
I didn't mention any others, but I just asked you.
And that's why I say they bear the majority of the responsibility, because they get to terminate the pregnancy without any input from the man.
So I think we're getting off track because we're talking about roles that are traditionally held by men. In your opinion, women should not hold them. What are some of those roles? Childbearing obviously is not a role traditionally held by men.
No.
Okay.
No, that's not. I would say the leadership role within the relationship, the guidance,
Guidance. What do you mean? Because that's encompassing
The,
leadership.
the woman is basically telling the man how to conduct himself throughout the relationship and throughout life.
Give me an example. I have an assumption what you're talking about, but yeah,
An
I'm asking.
example of that would be um, your thoughts, your concerns doesn't matter. Mine does.
A lot of women.
You need to view. You need to have the same point of view as me.
What don't
And
men
this is
generally
how.
say that
And this is how.
or want that?
I just gave you an example. I just gave you an example.
Okay.
Because men,
Touche.
yeah, men traditionally are supposed to be the leaders in the relationship, and every man has a program, and I call it a program.
Okay. Define
Every
that
man
program.
has a program. It's basically how you conduct yourself in a relationship as the leader, as the man.
That sounds like personality.
It could be
Or
personality,
characteristics,
it could be
traits.
characteristics, but it's a program.
Okay.
And a woman has to decide whether she wants to get on a man's program. Now that can also be reversed. But here's the problem with that. And you and I were discussing that at one point. Here's the problem with that. Historically, women are attracted to dominant alpha males. If she has to be the breadwinner, if she has to be the one that's protecting the man, if she has to be the one that's doing everything in the relationship, she's not gonna have respect for that man.
Now, what do you mean protecting a man? Can you elaborate on that? Because that can mean
Well, protection
myriad
is
of things.
vast. Protection is vast. It could
Give me
be
two examples.
monetarily or it could be physically.
Okay.
If a woman don't feel, if you ask a woman, what are the traits that you look for a guy? Most women that are shorter will say, I need a guy that's taller because he makes me feel safe. Or I need a guy that got a little hood in him and some intellect because then I know if we out in the street, he can defend me. So that type of thing. If a woman feels like she has to jump in front of you, and some women will try and do that, then the respect level is not going to be there.
Now here's something I would say with all due sincerity.
Okay.
If I was in a relationship and my woman had to defend me physically,
Hmm.
after the incident, I'm out.
Why are you out?
Not because of shame or pride. I'd be like, you know what? I I'm supposed to be in that role, and I would be remiss to stay in that role because she needs someone who will protect her. So I don't believe a lot of men will stay in that relationship after their woman defended them.
Depends on the man.
Because as a man, I would not say be shame or pride, lack of pride, is because she deserves better, in my opinion.
Hmm. I agree with that.
But I find it hard to believe that it's a large percentage or just a small percentage. Or did you do a Google search to find out it was
No,
a large or small percent of women who protect their men?
there's a small percentage.
Okay.
There's a small percentage, but that percentage is growing because of the feminist movement and the modern thinking woman and the independent thinking woman. They'll knuckle up with a guy these days, and they don't have a problem with that. And so, but going back to what you said, there are four different men. There's alpha males, there's sigmas, omegas, and what I like to call beta simp manginas.
Oh, called what?
Beta simp manginas.
Define meningitis.
Those are 80% of guys that will allow a woman to walk over them, placate to a woman, do everything a woman wants, will allow that woman to run in front and take the bullet and be in the back. They're very productive men. Don't get that wrong. They're very productive men. They're some of our finest men on paper. But those are the men that the women, the boss women, the women that are making the money and all, that's who they end up settling for when they can't get the guy that they originally want that is on that upper scale.
Now, see, I have to push back a little bit because it seems
Sure.
like you may have mixed in some characteristics of those other two. You mentioned beta and alpha. I'm gonna ask you to define the other two.
Okay.
But you said that you know, alpha beta men let women.
Run over 'em.
Well, let me finish.
Go ahead.
They let women, take charge and do things. That could be something mutually agreeable. Like the man can say, "I'll be a, I would be a stay-at-home dad,"
Mm-hmm.
and or with our joint resources, I'll let you. I'm okay with you handling the bills because you're more, attuned to doing those type of things. I don't have that skill set.
Absolutely.
So how's that a bad thing when they mutually agree upon the roles in their relationship?
It's bad because women always change their minds down the road. That's why they leave. They get bored or something might happen and they get tired and they leave. And as I stated before, the reason why those relationships never work or they last, but the woman is sneaking out because she has an innate she is she will gravitate toward the kind of man that she really wants. She'll settle for that guy because that guy's reliable. That guy is predictable. He's going to do everything that she needs him to do, but she's going to tire of him, be bored with him, and she's going to cheat and be attracted to a guy that she can't control in that area.
So two things. Women will give you, based on, I have a lot of female friends, so and I'm not embarrassed to say I read Waiting to Exhale. You call me whatever characteristic of male you want.
I will off camera. We can go on though.
But women, they was raving about this book, and I read it, and this gave me insight into women thinking. And men, if you want to know anything about women thought process, don't talk to another guy. I'm serious. I've learned that. It served me very well. And so women will give you a heads up before they step out on you. They will. I'm not feeling love. I don't think you spend enough attention. Spend enough time at home. They have all these things that their needs, and they've been ignored emotionally. And so they would give you all these warnings. Then some other guy comes in and they start showing them some attention. Tyler Perry wrote a movie. I can't recall the name of it. Janet Jackson was in there. Malik Yoba. It was a couples, about 3 or 4 couples in there.
Why Did I Get Married?
Yeah, something like that. He wrote in the script the 80-20 rule.
Mm-hmm.
You know what that is?
Yes.
What is it? Just for my audience, for those people who don't know.
You're getting 80% of a person's emotions, or you're possibly getting 20%.
So the way he wrote in the script is, and I find it to be true. You're not going to get 100% of the person you want.
Yeah.
More than like when you decide to commit to a partner, you're getting 80%. I would say settle. To your point, men and women do settle because everybody wants 100%.
No. I will say this.
Well, let me finish.
Go ahead.
So both want 100%. 100% of anything is highly improbable in today's period.
It doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist. I don't think it ever existed.
It never did.
So most people settle for 80%. There's just 20% that's out there. Is that piece. You like when you mentioned something about women, like a guy who's all put together but got a little hood in him, got the little excitement in him. It goes to the old saying that women find good guys boring, but they like a little
facts.
but they like a little roughneck, and they like the bad boys. As a reformed nerd.
Maybe not so much, but go ahead.
I've seen it. I'm like, well, I'm doing this and doing that, And
Nice guys finish last.
Yeah, well, you know what? I've done all right, but I'm a single guy, so
So you done all right?
Okay. I'm single because of my own little idiosyncrasies, right? And so all about that, but it's not the woman is me.
Okay.
Right. And that's why I'm not, you know,
I got
in
it.
a relationship. I would like to be, but as you know, but I got to work out my own idiosyncrasies about that. But but that's what so that when she's telling her man, I'm not feeling emotionally fulfilled.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody comes along who doesn't give her that 20% that
Mm-hmm.
she's not, who gives her the 20% that she's not getting from her partner.
Mm-hmm.
She's all right. I want you, and she steps out. And then, so that's one thing you mentioned about. What was the other thing you mentioned? You said something about. That's why I push back. Explain why women step out.
Explain why they step out.
No, you mentioned two things. I said, well, let me address them, and I forgot what they were. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
It may come back to me, but that's why women step out on men because, and I have to say, I don't doubt women for uh, having the belief that men are not as dependable and they want to be their own woman. I've failed a woman that I love,
Mm-hmm.
and it hurt me,
Okay.
and I not as much as it hurt her, obviously, but it hurt me too. But it hurt her more, and it ripped my heart apart. Not because of what she did, because she didn't do anything to deserve, my failed characteristics. All she did was just love me unconditionally, and what she said to me that ripped my heart out. And I've never done it again because in a soft, non-judgmental, broken heart, tears come. It was like you take the fingernail and scratch board and go down,
Mm-hmm.
chalkboard and scratch. I can still hear what she told me to this day, and
Okay.
I saw the pain. I've never exhibit that characteristic ever again. And,
Okay.
and so I understand why women um, have doubts about trusting men or giving their all to men because we give them good reason to. So I mean, what's your opinion of that? I mean, they have reason to not trust a man and want to have their own everything.
Couple things. I'm gonna try to get. I think you touched four things. I'm gonna try to touch all four.
Okay.
If I forget, try to reel me in.
All right.
I'm gonna start with the 50-50 thing.
50-50 or 80-20?
Or 80-20.
Okay.
Here's a very well kept secret that most people don't think, and I ask people this all the time. I'm going to say 50-50 because if you ask a woman, do you believe in 50-50, they'll all say yes. Or they'll come back with a smart
50-50
answer.
relationship roles.
Yeah.
Okay.
They'll say that. But the majority of them will come back and say, no, I believe in 100-100, which is being smart ass. But that's fine. Here's the reality. 50-50, 100-100 don't exist. It only exists in movies. Somebody is always doing a little more or a little less than the other individual. An example of that would be we're obviously heterosexual men. If I'm dating a woman, she might be more affectionate than me. I might be more communicative than her. She might be more acts of service. I might be more words of affirmation. So somebody is always doing a little less or a little more than the other. But both individuals have to be comfortable with the dynamics, the roles in which they play in the relationship that allows the relationship to move forward in a positive, productive manner. So, for instance, you know my weaknesses, I know your strengths, and vice versa. We have to be comfortable with those things and say, well, I know he's probably not going to give me that 80, but I'll probably get 20 of it here.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to be okay with that. Whereas women are not doing that. So back to what you were saying, why they step out. So that's example one.
Well, I say
They'll come and give you a warning.
you warning.
They'll come and give you a
Because
warning.
man, we
Yeah.
would just do it
Yeah.
with no thought.
Yeah, it doesn't mean anything to
Right.
us.
Right.
When a man cheats, it's more so nature. I will say that, and that's debatable. But I would say that's nature. When a
Well, let's touch on that a little bit.
sure.
Uh, Back in the day,
Hmm.
and I'm gonna go back to the after Adam and Eve,
Hmm.
but before the crucifixion of Christ.
Okay.
Between that period, men had. I'm not defending men cheating on a wife, a girlfriend, whatever else. I'm just
I know where you're going, but go ahead.
because we've had this discussion. We've had many discussions about this topic. um, so men had multiple wives.
Yeah,
And,
historically, men have had
and
multiple
right,
wives.
yeah, and it was perfectly fine back then.
Yes.
But then the New Testament comes along, and then now is men are supposed to have one wife, and so that's why I brought up the nature part because
Mhm.
but you have thousands of years of human mankind having multiple wives, and now another thousand something years. The evolution is you have to reverse.
The majority, and this goes back to what I originally stated, women are attracted to dominant alpha men. The
Well,
20% back,
who wants a weak man?
they settle for those guys. Now, here's my thing, is the reason why monogamy was introduced is because the majority of the alpha men was sleeping with the women. They were the ones that were producing the children. The other percentage of men were not. So that's why monogamy was introduced.
Well, now I have a different opinion, which is
Sure.
again as I started at the very beginning, this is America and we have
Mhm.
freedom of speech. My opinion is the reason it's in the New Testament that we're supposed to have
Mhm.
one wife and women one husband is because it's our testament to God. Like, okay, this is our one spouse, and it's like, don't kill, don't steal, don't have adultery, don't all these other
Mhm.
rules. Don't do this, don't do that. It's hard for us to practice those things. Like people, some people still, even like one of my guests in a prior episode, like some people still office supplies, still stealing. So so people do things.
Mhm.
You're supposed to love your neighbor. Some people hate their neighbor. You
Sure.
know, do unto others as you're supposed to. It's hard to do those things.
Sure.
So it's hard. So by nature, it's hard for a man to uh, yeah, not cheat. But there's a lot of men out there who's probably raised saying, "Hey, I never cheated." That's fine. You know,
Yeah.
and that's admirable. But I just only brought that up because you said it's nature that men do that. I was trying to explain put some historical context to it. I may be
Mhm.
totally off. It's not that
A little
I'm
bit,
okay.
a
How
little
am I?
bit, but not. You in the ballpark.
Okay.
You definitely in the ballpark, way in the ballpark. But I will say, naturally, yeah, men gonna always look and gonna always be enticed. And I struggle with using your lower self because it's nature,
Mm-hmm.
because God put that in us. So I don't want to say
Wait,
lower,
put what in us?
wanting to have multiple people
Well,
or
I
that
didn't say
urge.
God put that in us.
Yeah, it's our nature. That's what we were created. In the Bible, it says, "Be fruitful and multiply and spread your seed."
Okay, touche.
Okay. So now, with that being said, it's difficult for men to not want to procreate with a woman. It's difficult for us. And most women don't understand how difficult that is because every day women get offered guys. Every day. When a guy
Get offered guys.
offered, I'm trying to be politically correct here and not say something vulgar,
What?
but
But
men,
I already gave a disclaimer, so I'm not following what you're saying.
okay, women get offered sex every day because men are after that. So when a man is saying, "Let me get that door for you," "Oh, you look so nice," that is a prelude to, "I want to sleep with you." That is a prelude to that. So women have practices every day to turn down men. Women do that on a consistent basis. Matter of fact, it's a sport for them. They love to tell a guy, "You too dusty, you too broke, you can't do this for me, you can't do that for me." They love that experience.
Well, don't men do the same thing?
How so?
Because a man may see a woman who they find unattractive.
He just
Well,
won't say anything to her.
okay, so you're saying that women verbalize their
Yes.
discontent.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I've seen some. Well, yeah, I've seen some. I've heard some men say some things that
Only
may
if
not
he's
be flattering.
provoked. Only if he's provoked. Like an example of that would be if a man sees a woman and she's very attractive and he might, what women call catcall, or he might whistle, or he might say something, oh, baby, you look nice in those jeans, or anything. And her response could be, it could be a look or it could be something verbal. And now he has a choice to respond in the way that he chooses to, but he's being triggered by her saying something vulgar back at him, which he didn't think was vulgar when he said to her, "You look nice in those jeans."
Okay.
So that would be my example.
All right. So you mentioned something about the XY chromosome supporting your opinion about women should not be in roles that are traditionally held by men. You mentioned leadership. Before you answer that question, what other roles do you believe women should not hold? You mentioned leadership is one, as far as guidance. It's part of leadership.
I think you and maybe perhaps your listeners might feel that I have a bad view of women.
Oh, no, I know you love women.
And that can't be further from the truth. I don't believe women should not hold any position that they don't want for themselves. I don't believe that. What I do believe is that there are consequences behind those choices, as I stated earlier. An example of that would be women that work in penitentiaries.
I know where you're going.
Yeah, women that work in penitentiaries. Let's use that as an example. Women should not.
That's not common. Where you about to go, but I'll let you finish it.
It's common.
It's
Unless you think I'm going someplace. But anyway, women working in penitentiaries should not be guarding men. Because if something breaks out, you're not strong enough to date.
That's why I thought
to
you was going when you
prevent.
said date. So,
Well, that's happening too. That's happening at an alarming rate right now, actually. And that's another thing. But you can't prevent I'm 6'5", 270 pounds. What is a woman guard going to do with me? If there's a riot going on, if she's not armed, you know what I mean?
but nobody's armed, and at least you see in the movies. I don't.
Yeah, they're not.
Okay.
They have to go get those weapons. They can't walk around with them. So, but
Now,
my point.
what about a 5'5", 5'6" man who's a $1.5" wet?
He's still stronger than the average woman,
Really?
or the above average woman.
Really?
He's still stronger. God made us different.
Well, that's
He
obvious.
just made us different.
That's quite
And
obvious by looking at us.
we have more testosterone. They have more estrogen, and that's just what it is. And we can't. That's not even debatable. So that testosterone makes us stronger in many ways than a woman is. But going back to and also women guarding men, here's another bad decision. Something ain't going right in your life, like you just said. Oh, you're not giving me attention. Now you come into the jail.
We want some things.
Now
too,
you
and
come
we're
into
not
the
getting from
jail, and that criminal now is talking to you, and now you come in smelling good, putting your makeup on, and you're not seeing this guy like you're supposed to see him. You seeing him as a guy that's talking nice to you, and then women end up bringing in dope, phones, sleeping with the guy. Men and women. Let me be clear: men shouldn't be guarding women either.
Okay, I was about to ask you.
Yeah,
It goes both ways.
It goes both ways. They should not be doing that. So what I'm saying is you're putting people in positions to not be successful and this stuff to go awry. And then when it does, you're surprised. Oh, you're supposed to have these standards. It's men and women. That's what's supposed to happen.
So
The
is that
natural
why?
gravitation toward each other.
So is that why you say women should not be in leadership positions?
That's a slippery slope now. Let's say this, or I'll say this.
Yeah, you say that.
I'll say this.
Let's.
I do believe women should be in leadership positions. I do believe that.
You just said
and I'm okay.
12 minutes ago.
No, I did not. I said that there are consequences for them being in those leadership positions.
Your cousin, for the record, let me
Go ahead.
put this out there. I ask you, what roles
Hmm.
do you believe that are traditionally held by men, women, you find objectionable? And you mentioned leadership and guidance, which I say guidance is
In a
part of leadership.
relationship. In a relationship. If you're talking about outside of a relationship, then yes, but there's
Outside
consequences.
of no, outside of relationship
Yeah.
too,
Uh,
but
every
outside of relationship.
everybody's placed here on this earth has a right to go for what they want. If you want to be successful in business, do that. If you want to be the leader in your relationship, do that. What I'm saying is that I'm an alpha masculine man. I lead, I don't follow. I run to the front. And the person that's going to be with me is going to have to get on my program. That's not a controlling program. That's not anything of that nature. What it is I'm the leader, I'm the guide, I'm the teacher. I will provide, I will protect, I will provide infrastructure, I will provide guidance. I will do everything that is required of a man to do at his highest point for my female.
Now, some women out there may find what you said objection, which is
That's
you're the
fine.
teacher. Some may
Yes.
say, I don't need to be taught. I have a PhD.
If you feel like you don't need to be taught, and that's another problem. If you feel like you don't need to be taught, then you don't need to be in a relationship because I can
Well, can you
learn from
teach someone
learn from my female as well.
okay, so it goes both ways.
Yeah, I can learn from my female as well. If I close myself off to that, then how are we going to grow as a unit?
So would you be okay with a woman giving you guidance
Sure.
on things that you believe should be traditionally decided by men?
Sure. If I'm weak in an area and she's strong in that area and she sees something that I don't see, I will go to her for counsel. Now, my decision at the end is going to be mine, but I will take in account her counsel about that.
So are you comfortable with working for a woman outside the house? We've been talking about out inside the home,
No, I'm
in a
not
relationship.
comfortable with that. I can answer that quick,
Okay,
fast, and in a
and,
hurry.
and why not?
Because I run to the front. I don't stand on the side. I don't stand behind. I don't walk behind. I run to the front. So I will never be comfortable with a woman leading me, ever,
So,
in capital letters, ever.
so you never had a job where you had a female boss,
Sure, and I didn't like it.
but you got that paycheck.
Not long. How long have you known me? How long have you known me to be in business for myself? Okay.
So you're an entrepreneur because you don't
Yes.
want to be
I.
told what to do by a woman in the
It
workplace.
doesn't have to be a woman. It can be a man. I'm not interested in making anybody rich but myself.
But you find it objectionable working for a woman or having a woman as
I would
a.
have a problem with that. Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
I believe because I'm that person that runs to the front. I need to lead. I don't need to follow. I don't that man, that makes me sweat to even think about that. Yeah,
You're that repulsed by
I've
it.
been a natural born leader. Anything that I've ever gotten into, I've always ran to the front of that. Whether I knew it consciously or subconsciously. But at a younger age, I've always known I hated working for people. Whether it was a man or a woman, I hated that. But because I believe I'm in the process of trying to get my master's in psychology, and I just believe that it's psychologically damaging for a woman to be controlling a man.
That is out there.
How is that out there? How is that out there? If
Because
hold on.
no, you ask your question. I want to answer your question.
Go ahead.
Women have, they've gone to school just like a man
Sure.
has, and you have a woman who's more qualified than a man to be placed in a leadership position.
Mm-hmm.
She should have that right.
And I'm not denying that.
But you say you find it repulsive for a man to actually be in that position
Because
to work under her.
Because I know what the outcome is going to be. It's going to be disrespect because a woman, if you were to ask any woman, even what you call boss bees.
I don't call him that. I've never called a woman a boss bee.
Well, not you. But most, we'll say women call themselves boss bees.
I've heard a lot of women call
Yeah.
themselves that.
If you were to ask 100 women, what kind of man are you attracted to? I guarantee you that man that she has to lead, she's not going to even bring him up. So I know the consequences of that. So a woman does not respect a man that she has to lead.
And the workplace, I don't think that's
Any
applicable.
place,
I don't think that's
any
applicable because
place.
she's there to do a job, he's there to do a job, and they both go home to their respective spouses.
Yes. But I just given you a litany of stuff earlier in this conversation where women said, I feel like I would be dating down if a man doesn't meet
I'm talking
me.
about workplace now.
I was getting there if you let me get there.
Okay.
As far as I need a man on my level financially. I need a man. Most women that have PhDs and masters, they're not going to even deal with a guy that has a high school diploma or associates because she's going to look down on him. Women have historically looked down on men that they are in a better position in. If you ask a woman, what kind of man are you attracted to? Do you want a man that's more physically opposing than you? They'll say yes. If you ask them, do you want a man that's more intelligent than you? That might vary, but most of them will say, yeah, probably. If he's more competent than me, then he's fit to lead me. Is he taller than me? Yes. So all of those things are strengths, L. They're strengths. So if a woman is leading you, there's no way in hell she's going to respect you. There's no
In a
way.
workplace, they have something called human resources.
Facts.
So if a
Facts.
woman is not respecting a male subordinate, then there's avenues to address that issue. But I don't think that's common in those type of female leadership male subordinate
It's common.
positions.
It's common. It's just not being said. It's common. A woman can disrespect you in a bunch of ways.
Also in the workplace,
In the work,
without being a target of an HR investigation.
it all depends on the guy.
Well, give me an example.
If you let me, I'm trying. I'm saying it all depends on the guy. If it's a beta guy, which 80% of guys out here are betas, he's not going to even recognize that he's being talked down to. So he's not going to even go to HR. But if it's an alpha dude, he's going to go to first and foremost, he's going to check her in the beginning before he even gets to HR. And then he's going to report it to HR if he wants to keep his job. But at the end of the day, women could say all kind of sneaky, sly things in order to, what's the verbiage I'm looking for? Emasculate you.
So give me two examples of how they can do that with it being under the radar where the guy doesn't realize that he's just been assaulted. Or demeaned, as you say, or disrespected in a workplace.
It could be your position in the job, your title or position in the job could be something of a higher stature, and then they give you some kind of work that is beneath what you should be doing when they could have gave it to somebody else.
Like a woman?
No,
Okay.
it could be a guy too.
Okay. All right.
It could be a guy too.
All right.
The way that they talk to you, it could be, why are you dressed like that? Or it could be, it could be something with your height. It could be something.
I think most female bosses walk around saying, "Oh, I think you're too short."
Sure, they do.
That would trigger HR investigation. But I digress. So you mentioned um, the XY chromosome supports your opinion. Can you go into detail about that?
In reference to what?
Your opinion about women not being in
Oh,
roles traditionally held by men.
okay. We were talking about this. Or we
Yeah, I
were
was
discussing
earlier,
this. Yeah.
not in this podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Women have one chromosome, which is the female chromosome. Men have two chromosomes, which is the X and Y chromosome. So, as I was stating to you, women don't have a fundamental base for masculinity. And if you talk to most women, they'll tell you, oh, I was forced to be more masculine because I had to, because the man wasn't around. I had to go get it. I had to go do it. So
That's fair because some
yeah,
men are. I just admitted to my
yeah, yeah.
faults.
So that is a learned trait. That is a learned trait. So that's
What's
not
a learned trait?
a learned trait is something
No,
that you
what learned trait are you talking about? What did they?
masculinity, being
So
masculine.
they learn to be
They
masculine
learn to be
based on
masculine.
their. I'm assuming experience
Yeah,
with men, trifling men. I would say.
yeah.
Okay.
Most, if not all, women will tell you I was forced to be masculine because they don't like being called that.
Okay.
So they will say I was forced to be masculine. Okay,
Well,
and
they
so
just say.
that's learned.
I would say I've heard women, single parents, say I was forced to
Yeah,
be a single
yeah.
parent.
So that's learned.
Yeah.
That's not what you were born with. But in regards to men, men have female and male chromosome. So men could be more feminine if they draw more from that chromosome. So that's in men to do that. I don't recommend it, obviously, but that's in men to do that. So just like
Well,
that
could that be
nature,
like a man who's confident in his masculinity?
sure, a man can be confident in his masculinity for sure.
Because you
But
say you don't
no,
suggest that.
I say I don't suggest a man being more feminine.
Oh, okay. All right.
No, I'm all for masculinity.
Right.
I don't subscribe to a man being more feminine because that's a problem.
What do you think of? I know back in the Miami, was it the Miami Heat or what? Don Johnson and what's the other guy named Miami?
Crockett or Tubbs,
Yeah. Well, what's the actor's name? That was his character.
Michael Thomas. I can't remember his
Okay.
last name,
So
but Don Johnson.
metrosexualism was real big.
Mhm.
Men had these loud colors. Yeah. So somebody they say, well, you got that could be contributed to that feminine gene, the metrosexual persona.
There's some validity to that. I'd have to admit that. There's
Okay.
some validity to that.
So there's nothing wrong with a man kind of showing his, I wouldn't say
If it's
feminine,
controlled,
explain control.
if it's if it's ma- if it's controlled in a way where it's not tilting one way or the other, or you're more feminine. You know what I mean? If you can show some femininity, and most guys can because we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we allow ourselves to be emotional. The biggest thing is men are not supposed to cry, and we're allowed to do that. You know, we're allowed to put ourselves in an emotional state.
And just
But
for the
you
record,
can't.
he he does cry. He when I picked him up at the airport, he started crying, and people like, "What's wrong with this guy?" I'm glad to see my cousin. I'm happy to see my cousin. So you do cry. You do have some type of.
You know, you didn't make that believable, did you? You really know that, right?
He doesn't want to admit it, but it happened. I got video.
Okay. Doctor. Go ahead.
But anyway, I digress. Now you were saying women. We talked earlier about women not being nurturing
Mhm.
uh, where they were in the past. And I
Yes.
ask you, what do you mean by not being nurturing? You say, well, this is some women may find this, offensive.
Really bad.
Uh, they're not teaching their daughters how to be a wife,
Yes.
and uh, it was what was the term used? Wife skills. That's.
Yeah, wife skills.
And I ask you, what are wife skills? And so, why don't you explain what you believe are wife skills? Because those same skills could be for men, as we just talked about the men having XY chromosome.
Mhm. Go back to what your original question was, and then I'll hit that too.
I'm sorry.
Go back to what your original question was, and then I'll hit that too. You said something about women. I can't remember what you said the first part was because it was important. Do you remember?
No.
Oh man, that was important too. Um, give us a sec. About women. About the roles of. Man, that was important too. But what was your last part of your question?
So you're saying that women they're not they're not being as nurturing as
That's it. That's it. Okay.
And I said, well, men have the XY chromosome.
Yeah.
They can also be
Got you.
nurturing their children as
Got you.
well.
I'm caught up now. Real simple. It's not going to go over well, but real simple. And it goes back to what I originally said. Women have learned the trait of masculinity. So because it's a learned trait and because they're taking on roles of men now, they're trying to be the providers, or they are being the providers. They're getting their
Now we're
education.
talking about the household again, because outside you just mentioned leadership.
Yeah, we're talking about the household. So they're doing all of these things. Historically, men have lived less than women. Our life expectancy is lower than
You
women.
can't blame that on a woman.
Huh?
You can't blame that on a woman.
I never did.
Okay, I'm just going.
Okay. If you let me get the back end of it, you find I'm trying to get to my destination. Historically, men have died sooner than women. And that's why there are more women here on earth than there are men. And that's why we can go in a whole nother thing about polygamy. That's why that kind of exists, because there's more women here than there are men. But men die earlier because they take on the stresses of the world. Okay? That's our job. That's what God put us out here to do. We're supposed to go hunt. We're supposed to go provide. We're supposed to create a nest for the woman to take care of. All of that stuff.
And that's biblically based, because
Yeah.
after Adam and Eve got booted out the Garden of Eden, God said, "You will till this ground as hard as a rock.
Mhm.
You will make it work."
Yeah.
He made it difficult for man to be
Yeah.
a provider for
Exactly.
his spouse.
Exactly.
So you may have a point.
Yeah, and so men take on all of those things, and that's why it is seriously, and hear me when I say this, it is seriously important that when a man comes from the outside world to come to his home, that he's able to plug in to peace, that he's able to get recharged to go back out there to do what he has to do for his woman and his children. That is the most important thing. If a woman wants to know what a man wants, every man, even the beta simps, peace. That's all it's ever been. Just give me peace to go back out and do what I got to do, because I'm probably not going to outlive you. And you're going to go on in life and find another dude that's going to do what I'm doing. So just bring peace. Set the household up and understand that your power lies in your femininity. That's where your power lies. And your ability, what's the word that you used? What was the word that women, nurturing? Your power lies in that. But because you're out there acting and being like men
In the household, you're talking about.
in the household, women's life expectancy, if you notice, is going down. They're dying at earlier ages now because they are doing men, yeoman work. So now, look it up. Statistically,
I know for a fact that stress
yes,
shortens a lifespan.
exactly. And so that's what's happening. But because they're out there doing all of these things so that they can present themselves to a man and say, I'm educated. I have my own house. I have my own car. I have my own job. I got my fat bank account. All of this, that stuff doesn't matter to a man, because a man's natural instinct is to provide that for you. So all that stuff you're doing comes with a consequence. And who suffers the most from that? Your man and your child, because you're not able to be a nurturing person anymore because you're masculine. Because, let me get the back end of that. When a man is out working and doing his thing, who is taking care of the child? The woman, right? So she's being the nurturer. She's bringing the culture to the child. The man comes in, does the disciplining, does the loving, but the woman is the educator, the teacher, the nurturer, the giving of the culture to the child. The man does not do that.
Well, listen, you have now in this day and age, 21st century.
Mm-hmm.
This episode is about defining masculinity in the 21st century. You have men and women working outside the house.
Sure.
Both of them would like to come home to peace, as you say, and recharge by each other. Isn't that fair? Why is the woman don't get recharge and have peace?
They both get to do that if that's the position that they're in. But you have to properly choose the person so that you feel like you're not in that position. So then if you have a standard, then adhere to that standard. So if you're a woman that wants to be a stay-home woman, if you want to be kept that way, then okay, then that's the guy you need to find. But
You say kept. That sounds so demeaning.
how's that demeaning?
Like a kept man or a kept woman or kept man. That just sounds like you enslaved.
Okay, so does a man say that he's keeping a woman, or does he say he's providing?
I'm just determined. That's
Okay,
kept. I
that's
just
fine.
push back
But
on the
but
term.
it's a woman can be kept. She's being kept. She's being provided for. She's being
Okay,
taken care
so you
of.
flush that out.
Yeah,
So, are you familiar with the term toxic masculinity?
sure.
Uh, how do you define it, or what do you understand it to mean?
Uh, to me, it's a manufactured word.
Okay,
It's a manufactured word by feminists and modern thinking women.
and why would you think they, as you say, manufactured it?
Because it allows them to be in the victim role to support their need to do everything that a man can do.
So, how would you define toxic masculinity?
It doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist.
No, it's never existed.
Because when we talked earlier, you gave me
Hmm.
your thought of what you thought it meant.
But it doesn't exist.
Okay,
I gave you what feminists and modern thinking women say it
okay.
is.
What do you think they say?
It's that you believe that you're superior than women, and you have a disdain and dislike for women in every aspect of life.
I
That's
don't. That's not
that's what they say. Ask them, not ask. Ask them.
So when do you think it'll be appropriate for a woman?
Hold on. Before you go there,
Okay.
because we talked about this. Ask the women about misandry.
Who?
Misandry.
Oh, okay.
Ask them about that because they quick to say toxic masculinity. They quick to say that, but ask them about that. And I would love to hear their response about that because that never comes up. Now, for people that don't know, that is the total disregard for anything useful about a man.
Now you mentioned women do have some natural powers.
Sure.
Earlier you mentioned that before today. What are those natural powers?
What are those natural
Yeah, you
powers?
said women don't know the power they have.
Yes. The biggest one is when a woman basks in her femininity. That's her power. That is her power.
When they what?
When they bask in their femininity.
Bask.
Bask
Okay.
in their femininity. That is their nature. That is the beauty, the very essence and core of what a woman is. That's what God created her to be. When she understands the power that comes behind that, then she knows that she's in the power position. Here's the interesting thing about that question. You play chess?
I do.
Most men play chess, right?
I don't know. My group of friends do, so I can't speak for the general
How many
population
women
of
do
men.
you know play chess?
I don't know. I never asked.
Because it's rare. We can probably agree that it's rare. But here's the interesting thing. The queen is the most powerful piece on the chessboard.
Yes, she is. I love her.
Yeah, exactly. She's the most powerful piece on the chessboard. Why do you think that is?
You tell me.
Because a woman is supposed to be the counsel for the man.
That's supposed to. We got to speak louder.
She's supposed to be the counsel for the man. The man will go to her and get wisdom from her femininity before he makes his ultimate decision on what he needs to do. Now, he might not go with what she suggested, but men will always go to that woman because there's wisdom in her femininity. And women have totally thrown that out. For the feminist movement, the modern thinking independent woman, they've totally thrown that out. They act like being a feminine woman is beneath them. They act like that's like the worst thing you can call them these days.
So, go into more detail your definition of femininity. as you
No,
understand it to
I
be?
was saying traits. Um, a feminine woman is a woman that is, she basks in her femininity. She's somewhat fit. Um, she's agreeable. She's non-confrontational. She's non-argumentative. She's non-combative. She's submissive. And when I say submissive, I don't mean in regards to she's being controlled. Submissive is agreeable. Um, she understands how to treat her man, how to run a household, how to conduct herself with class, style, grace. Um,
So that's enough. But one can say those could be character traits of masculinity.
how?
Everything you just said, a man can do those same things.
Sure, he can.
When you said submissive, when you define it as agreeable, I said, okay, that's those are things that men can do as well. So what's the difference between masculinity and femininity? You basically articulated things that both men and women do that it doesn't have anything to do with the XY chromosome.
The difference is that a man, when he basks in his masculinity, it's to be a leader. It's to be a teacher. It's to be a guide. It's to be a protector. It's to be a provider. The Bible says, and for all the Christians that are out there, the Bible says God, man, woman, child. That's how it was laid down. If you are a true believer, then that's what you're supposed to subscribe to. So that's the difference.
So you mentioned the Bible.
So the
There's
traits could be similar, but the man is supposed to be in the leadership role because he is supposed to take on the stresses. He's supposed to take on the violence. He's supposed to take on the leadership, the guidance. He's supposed to protect not only his wife, not only his property, not only his kids, but he's supposed to protect himself as well. As when he goes out there, I asked a woman this the other day, uh, does a do she believe that a woman represents her man and a man represents himself? And she said, no, it's both. And I said, no, it's not. A man represents himself. A woman represents her man.
But let me to that point. 1 Corinthians 11:12 states the following to what she told you.
Okay.
That's interesting that she said that
Mm-hmm.
because I picked the scripture to bring out, find a good point
Good.
to talk about. It reads from the King James Version of the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Nevertheless, neither is the man without the woman,
Mm-hmm.
neither the woman without the man in the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
For as the woman is of the man, even so is the man also
Mm-hmm.
by the woman.
Okay.
But all things of God.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, it proves her point.
Proves her point how?
What you just said, that they're basically equal in certain respects, and they're supposed to respect each other, love each other, and they're one of the same in the eyes of God. She didn't say that, but I just read the
Yeah,
scripture.
she didn't say that.
But I just read the scripture with in the eyes of God, men of women and men of and women of men, because the Bible also in that same chapter, or maybe I got the wrong chapter, but I saw read where it says women came from men. You mentioned the Christian faith, so I'm a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
Women came from men, but guess where men come from? We come from women.
Okay.
So I think that was very profound that she mentioned that to you, and I
That's
started
not as
bringing the scripture.
profound as you might want to think.
Well, based on the scripture I just read, it seems
Yeah,
profound.
but what is your understanding of that scripture?
I
First?
just told you.
Okay, but here's my understanding.
Okay,
A woman comes from a man's rib, right?
came.
Came.
Yeah.
Okay, a woman came from a man's rib, so she was fashioned out of the rib of a man, correct? That's what you're understanding, right?
That's the Christian faith.
Okay, that's what you're understanding, right? So I'm finna dispel what you're saying. So a man comes through a woman. Okay, did she create that man? No. I'll answer that for you. No. She was merely the vessel in which he came through. So she didn't create him. Men create life, women carry life.
Now, from my biology teaching, there's something called a sperm and an egg.
And comes from a man. The sperm comes from a man.
So let me finish. And so the sperm and the egg must come together.
No, the sperm goes to the egg and fertilizes
they come
it
together.
I'm
words.
not denying that.
Okay.
What I'm saying is the sperm is the spark of life. It creates life. That's what I'm saying. Now it has to have a, let me finish. It has to have an egg to create.
Okay. All right.
So I'm not.
So you took
I'm
a biology
not.
Class too.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not disregarding a woman's process in this.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is, because I've heard this all my entire life, women create life. No, they don't. They carry life. They carry life.
We're getting close to the end of this episode, and it's been very interesting discussion. I appreciate you sharing your opinions. I
appreciate you having me.
Where did your opinion of women not holding traditional roles that are traditionally held by men, where did that come from?
Just looking around, various relationships that I've seen. I've traveled around the world, and I've just seen how the relationships. I'll say this: I had a conversation with my lady, and we were talking about who's changed, men or women, in the dating aspect. And she piped up and said, "Men have changed." And I said, "Prove that." And she thought about it for a second, and she couldn't prove it. And then she asked me, "Well, prove how women have changed." And then I gave her a litany of things of how women have changed.
Give me three, because we're getting close to the end of this.
They've taken on masculine roles.
Number two?
Number two is they feel like they are dating down.
Okay.
And the other one is that a woman will, and I've told you this before, a billionaire man will drive up to McDonald's and see the finest chick he ever met in his life. And she could have special sauce hanging from her hair, fried grease on an apron, and he'll be like, "What time do you get off?"
Now, I tell you,
and probably
McDonald's fries, I would assume the grease is good. So yeah, I was
but he will probably change that woman's life because of just a physical appearance, and then maybe what he's learned on the date. Now flip that role. A woman will come, a billionaire woman, pull up in her Bugatti, see the handsomest dude she ever met on the planet, and will not look at that dude twice because he's sitting at McDonald's. But then complain that I don't want to date a broke dude, I don't want to date down. Women with money have historically looked down on guys that don't have it. Now the women that are in
there are a lot of women I know who are married or dating blue collar guys and perfectly happy
because they settle. Because the kind of guy that they really want, they can't get.
And you base that on, because they seem pretty happy to me.
I base that on just common information, just
what
knowledge.
I see in the relationships I know of, they're very happy.
Okay, is that the majority of the minority?
Majority of the people I know who
that's your experience.
That's what I said.
So that's a minority experience.
Well, I don't know that because I hadn't canvassed the entire world.
Exactly. So what I'm saying
Maybe I should Google.
You can do that, and every woman will say, and I'm telling you this. Women will tell you that I want a guy that's making as much money as me or more money than me. They will tell you that because anybody that's making less, they've settled. And they'll tell you, I don't want to, why should I have to date down? They'll tell you that. So if that's what their belief is, and these people that you know are dating guys that make less than them, they're settling. And if a guy came along,
make a lot of money.
Huh?
Some blue collar workers make a lot of money.
Sure they do. I'm not dissing on guys that make historically men wage gap is $50,000, $50,000 to $60,000 a year.
More than women.
Less. No. Men. Their average salaries are 50 to 60,000 a year.
Less than. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the average man's salary.
And you
So
found that on
women,
Google?
you can get it anywhere. You can get it anywhere. But women that are now saying that I need a six-figure guy, well, that's not a six-figure guy. So that's that delusional thinking that I need a guy that's 6 feet, a guy that's making six figures, a guy that can do this, do that. No, that's a made-up guy because statistically, men's average wages are $50,000 to $60,000.
So we got a few more minutes. I'm going to get this question to you before I give a closing thought. Uh, you mentioned in previous conversation that uh, women have value at the very beginning, where men do not have to earn it.
Oh, great question. Glad you hit that. Women are born with value because women have what men want, and that's our nature to gravitate toward that.
What do they want?
Sex.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Just for clarification.
You want it too. Yeah, sex.
No man that I know don't.
Exactly. So women are born with value, and women have since.
But they have more than that to offer a man. Just.
I'm not saying they don't.
Okay.
I'm saying their value is their ability to allow us, because women control access to sex. I believe men control access to relationships. But in regards to women, they have what we want. We're like animals. We want to mate. We want to procreate. They have that. So that's their innate value. That's one of them. Obviously, they have more. But I've heard women say this to me all the time. I want a guy who's not just interested in sex with me. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. But that's not his job. And they don't get when I tell them that. It's not his job to want more than that. Because men are going to go with that nature. I want to sleep with you. Now it's your job to make me interested in something other than that. That's the woman's job. That's not the man's job.
It could be those other qualities that make
Exactly.
women valuable that the man should be seeking on his own.
Yeah, but she has to introduce him to that.
Well,
that's her job.
We're the hunter-gatherers.
No, what did you just say? We're the hunters.
So we should.
So if I'm a hunter,
should be looking for.
No, we're not. We're men.
We just have to agree to disagree.
Yeah, we're men. We're hunters.
So let's go back with a short few minutes I have left. What you said? Men don't have any value.
Yeah, men to women.
Okay.
We have value, but to women we don't have value, and we're all out here seeking women. The majority of us are. We're out here seeking women. So we have to grow. We have to do things in order to look good to a woman, i.e. what kind of car we drive, i.e. our bank account, i.e. our job, our house, the way we dress. We have to make ourselves appealing to women. So when we're teenagers in our 20s, women are too busy. No, you don't meet that criteria. You don't meet that criteria. Then when we get to our 40s and 50s, which is in a man's wheelhouse of what his potential earning is going to be, now you want to tell that man that you're the only candy in the candy shop after he been told no since he was a teenager. Because women, that's a sport for women to tell you, go on. I don't want you.
Because you're pretty stated that women, his words, not mine, lose their value as they get older. Your words are value. But I found that.
What product do you know? And we've had this what product do you know?
And I push back every time.
Yeah, that gains value with age and usage. There's no product. There's no product that gains value.
Have you ever heard of an antique car? The older it gets, that's been used, they're worth a lot of money.
Sure.
So I just gave you a product.
No, that's
antique cars.
Antique cars.
You pay a lot of money for them.
I know you think you got me on this.
No,
but at the end of the day, it's like selling a home. What you think is valuable might not be valuable to the next person. So just because somebody has an antique car and they put a stamp on it that this antique car is worth this, doesn't mean that it is.
It's in the eye of the beholder.
Exactly.
Value. And so if a man, so when you say to women as they get older, they may not be as desirable to men, I find that to be untrue.
I didn't say that they're not desirable. What I said to you earlier was that women that are in their 40s and 50s and even their 60s are competing with men that are in their prime. They are no longer in their prime. They were in their prime in their teenage 20s and 30s. They're not in their prime anymore. Men are in their prime in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. That's why their ability to attract younger women is prevalent today. But you don't see, women can attract younger men, but them younger men are not going to stay around. They're hitting and quitting. Those kind of women are gas stations, and we had this conversation. Guys come in, fill up, and they drive off. But that's the reality.
That's that's interesting. Women will push back on that.
I'm sure they would.
Yeah,
I'm sure they
maybe
would.
say it's a bit offensive.
I'm sure they would. But what women, and when you get older, you have to understand you're not your same 20 in your 30s and your teenage years. You're not that same person. So your mindset has to evolve past that person. You want us as men to, after we didn't grind it out and got to a point to where we're now successful men, and now we're looking around like, who do I want to pick to settle down with? And you're saying me, but what would make you qualify for that position when I can get a younger person that's going to be agreeable, that's not going to be argumentative, it's not going to be combative, want to challenge me all the time.
Well, there's a lot of men who are combative and argumentative. It goes both ways.
But that's a masculine man.
Okay. Folks, Malik, thank you.
Appreciate you.
Folks, I wish we had more time. I have a lot more questions. I even have comments from older generation, a younger generation that I want to present, but unfortunately, I just don't have the time. But I want to thank you for listening. I will be back probably the beginning of the year, but I'll be working on more episodes, doing a lot more research, and hopefully bring you more insightful, entertaining guests, and push the boundary a little bit regarding what men and women see each other and how they view each other, because it all evolves around your mental health, the male and the female. And this podcast is strictly about mental health, because men and women need to understand their roles in the 21st century. Because if you don't, you're doomed to fail. And so, if you go to my website, and I encourage you to do so, because a lot of people need counseling, relationship counseling, to kind of sort things out.
True.
To determine, should you marry this guy or should you get out of this marriage? Because your life expectancy should be longer than it is now, and stress is a killer. And so just alleviate the stress. Decide what roles that you are comfortable with, and pursue those roles. And forget about what people outside your household think. It's what you two decide on, and that's what matters. It works for your family. And so go to my website, Jumping Into Life. That's N, the letter N, and the number 2, jumpingintolife.com. You'll find a link to mental health resources. You'll find links to my books. I would encourage you to support this podcast by purchasing merchandise. There's a link for that. I tried putting in Jumping Into Life on Google.com. It didn't work. I went to Bing. It popped right up. I don't know what's going on with that, but jumpingintolife.com. And again, this podcast is to not to give mental health advice, because we're not mental health professionals. We're only bringing people on the show who have been through some things and who know a little bit about something, to get you to a point where you feel comfortable maybe seeking help where you need it. And so I really encourage you to reach out to other people, share this episode and other episodes. And you want to learn more about the Christian faith, go to my podcast, Acts 18:9, you're not too heavy for God, and it has all kind of topics. Why do bad things happen to good people? Just all kind of topics related to knowing more about the Christian faith. I encourage you to listen to that while I'm off season. And so one thing I will say that you need to do right now, is go, and love your partner a long time. Because I'm only going to be away for a short time. Until next time, thank you for tuning in.